Welcome back to Lisa Study Guides, your go-to destination for all things related to English. My name is Lisa and today we're going to go through the differences between VCE English, VCE Literature and VCE English Language. Before I get into it, I wanted to give a really quick shout out to Lighthouse Christian College. Hey guys, I promised you that I would give you a shout out, so here it is. I especially want to give a shout out to Esther, Emily and Josh, who requested for me to come to your school. I had heaps of fun meeting you guys and I cannot wait to see you soon. If you are a student or a teacher who is interested in having me do workshops at your school, then please contact me. I'll pop my email in the description box below and we can definitely get that organized. So if you want to find out more, then make sure you go ahead and contact me. So, because a lot of you are now back to school and you are beginning to choose subjects for the years ahead, I wanted to go through what are the main differences between the three English subjects that are available in VCE. If you are not studying VCE, which I know many of you are not necessarily in Victoria, then hopefully this still applies to you. I'm sure that you have different English subject options that you can choose from, and so hopefully some of this resonates with you. First question, what are these different subjects? English is basically a subject where you read a number of books and you start investigating into them. So whether that be themes, characters, the social context, the historical context, these are all things that you will begin to investigate and then begin to write them in essays. English also involves a little bit of creative writing, oral presentations and reading and comparing, which is basically where you compare two different texts together, also known as compare and contrast, and then you draw out what are the similar themes and ideas being discussed. There is also another part of English called language analysis, which is basically when you get an article, for example, and you start to analyze why has the author chosen to use these words or to use these phrases, especially in an attempt to try to get reader support. Literature. Literature is commonly regarded as the more advanced level of English. It is very much like English in that we investigate the complexity of the human experience to look at the social, historical and cultural context of the world that we live in, and English it's a humanities subject, so it's a way to give us extra insight into what we are like as people. Though in literature, what happens is that it's a lot more in depth in how you analyze the book. What this means is that you spend a lot more time focusing on the literary features of a particular text. So whether that be things like symbols, personification, assonance, repetition, alliteration, this is where you get into the nitty-gritty of things. Not just that, but you also look at adaptations and transformations of text. So when a book is converted into a film, how does that change meaning, or how does it add different meaning to the new film that's been created? You will also consider different literary perspectives, so just because you're one person reading this text doesn't mean that somebody else who's reading the text will necessarily have the same opinions and thoughts about that text as you do. So we investigate how different people have different interpretations of that particular text. English language. English language is basically learning about language itself. So rather than investigating text like we have in literature and English, what you do is really looking into the language itself and seeing how that reflects on that person's particular way of thinking or their social values or their position in society. So you spend time looking at formal versus informal language, grammatical and the discourse structure of language, and how those particular words in a sentence contribute to adding a particular message, and what is that purpose of the message and where has it been said in society. What are the similarities between the English subjects? So in the English and literature, you do look at meta-language and how meta-language, like what I mentioned before about symbols, personification, adds meaning or creates a certain sense of meaning. English language also has an overlap there. So meta-language in English language essentially looks at things like phonetics, phonology, morphology and lexicology, and syntax, which are all words that you will eventually know if you do end up studying English language. What are the differences? English and literature are definitely more subjective. You are really encouraged to develop your own understanding and interpretation of the text. The more unique and original your interpretation is, then probably the more likely you'll do better, if you can back it up with evidence, of course. Whereas with English language, it's a little bit more scientific based, so it's more analytical in the sense that you're picking out certain things and there is a definitive answer. Which one should I do? It is generally recommended that if you're not a strong English subject, then you should stick with mainstream English itself. It's what you've been learning since year 7, so you're more likely to have been exposed to basically the syllabus that will be ahead of you in VCE, so you're more prepped for it. Literature. If you are a strong English student, if you're an avid writer and an avid reader, then definitely investigate literature. It is one where you are required to read several books, probably quite quickly as well, and be able to be open-minded and think outside of the box. So if you're somebody who wants to go beyond just looking at themes and looking at characters, then this is definitely a fantastic challenge for you. If you're somebody who doesn't necessarily enjoy reading books, then potentially English language might be a little bit more suitable for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be doing any reading though. You'll be doing readings, not particular books that are set for you by your school. You'll be doing a lot of research, looking up lots of different examples from the media in order to find evidence to support whatever it is that you want to say in your essays. Also, there is word out there that English language may be more suitable for science and math students, just because it's more analytical and less subjective. So I do have to interject my own personal opinion here. For me personally, I was very much a maths and science student when I was at school, but I did both English and literature. I think that was one of the best decisions that I made. Although I was a very maths and science focused student, having English and literature really gave me balance in the subjects that I chose. So it's not necessarily a good idea to overload yourself with very analytical based subjects. Just make sure when you think about all your subjects that you choose collectively, that you do have some form of balance there. And with me, I'm actually really glad that I did both English and literature. Although I had always known myself to be a maths and science student, by the end of year 12, I had completely flipped and I was strongest in English. So there is definitely the opportunity to surprise yourself. Just because you consider yourself a maths and science student, or even conversely, just because you consider yourself a humanities student, doesn't necessarily mean that you should or should not do English, literature, or English language. I would recommend that you choose the subject that appeals to you most. When you do subjects that you enjoy, you'll probably more likely do better in them, rather than to choose subjects that you think you will do better in. What if I want to study 2 subjects? You can actually study 2 English subjects, and that's exactly what I did. Studying both English and literature meant that there were overlaps in both the subjects. For example, in literature, with what I mentioned before about how you really focus on literary devices, you're really honing in on different types of symbols, metaphors, alliteration, imagery, whatever else it is. That was all really, really good for my language analysis part of English. It was also really good just for my general analysis in any of my English texts, because I found it a lot easier to extract unique analyses of those particular texts. I also really felt like it gave me that extra edge in English because I was able to pick out things that many of the other students weren't able to. What type of subjects complement English? You will find that you'll also be studying other subjects that work really well with particular English subjects. Let's say with history revolutions, that could possibly work really well for English or literature, especially if you're studying a text that overlaps the certain historical period that you're learning about in revolutions. If you're studying Australian history, that could work really well with English language. So you see here there are certain overlaps in certain subjects, and therefore when you're looking at your subjects collectively, be wise with what you're choosing. With all your English subjects, any other subjects that require a lot of essay writing, let's just say history, legal studies, psychology, I'm not really sure, but whatever else it requires a lot of essay writing will automatically translate to you being a better writer in English itself. You can can definitely think about how they will help each other out. So that is me trying to offer a condensed summary of the differences and similarities between the 3 English subjects, and hopefully now you're feeling a little bit more knowledgeable in each of the subjects and have a better idea of potentially which one you may or may not want to choose. If you want to find out more information, then definitely go ahead and check out the study designs that Vika does publish. I'll link them in the description box below for you as well. And of course, speak to your teacher about it, and who knows, this might be shown in schools as well. Otherwise, feel free to comment below, ask us any questions that you have, and as a community here at Lisa Study Guides, we can help each other out. So please like this video if you felt like it helped you, and until next time.